There are seasons in life when waiting feels never-ending, when the nights stretch long and silent, and it seems as if God has turned his face away. You've prayed earnestly, cried deeply, and believed faithfully, yet the door remains shut, the answer postponed, the miracle delayed. But listen closely today. God's silence is not his absence, and his delay is never his denial. When God finally moves, when his divine timing unfolds before your eyes, it won't just bring relief, it will bring tears. Tears not of sorrow but of overwhelming joy, because in that instant, you'll finally understand why it took so long. You'll realize that while you were waiting, God was working. While you were wondering, he was preparing. And when his perfect timing arrives, it will move you to tears, because the beauty of his plan will leave you speechless. You see, God isn't bound by your calendar, pressured by your impatience, or moved by your emotions. His timing is divine, eternal, flawless. You might think he's late, but he's always right on schedule. You might assume the delay is punishment, but it's actually protection. God isn't holding something back to hurt you. He's saving it to bless you at the most fitting moment. When that appointed time comes, not a second early, not a minute late, everything will align perfectly. The doors, the people, the opportunities, all falling into place like pieces of a heavenly puzzle. You'll look back and see that if God had answered sooner, you would have settled for less. If he had opened that door too early, you would have lost what he intended for you. Many of you are standing in a season of waiting. You've been steadfast, you've done what's right. Yet nothing seems to shift. You're tempted to wonder if God still hears you, or if perhaps you missed his voice. But let me assure you, God never forgets. He never misplaces his children. He knows your name, your pain, and the exact second your breakthrough must come. You may not see it yet, but your waiting carries purpose. Every tear you've shed is watering the ground for your next blessing. Every disappointment you've endured is molding you for divine promotion. Every delay has been the hand of God positioning you for something so glorious that when it finally happens, you'll cry, not from hurt, but from being overwhelmed by his goodness. Think about it. Every great move of God began in waiting. Noah waited for the rain. Abraham waited for the promise. Joseph waited in the pit. And all of them probably felt what you feel now. Forgotten, unseen, weary. Yet when God's time came, their whole story changed. Noah saw the heavens open. Abraham held a son in his old age. Joseph saw the prison become a palace. What looked like delays were divine setups. The waiting was never wasted, and neither is yours. God is building something in your life that cannot be rushed. Some blessings are too sacred to arrive quickly. They require time. Time to strengthen your faith, humble your heart, purify your motives, and align your spirit with his perfect will. There are prayers you once prayed that God could have answered right away, but he didn't because he wanted to reveal something far greater. He wanted you to understand that his blessings aren't earned through desperation, but unlocked through transformation. He is reshaping you as you wait. He is teaching you to trust when nothing seems logical, to believe when everything appears impossible, and to keep standing even when your strength feels gone. You may not grasp it now, but one day you will. One day you'll look back on this season and say, "Now I see why God made me wait." You'll realize, if that door had opened, I would have fallen apart. If that relationship had continued, I would have lost myself. If that opportunity had come earlier, I wouldn't have been prepared. You'll cry not from pain but from gratitude, because you'll see how every delay, every heartbreak, and every detour was divine protection disguised as disappointment. Sometimes God slows you down because the road ahead isn't clear yet. He sees what your eyes cannot. He sees the traps, the wrong influences, and the unseen dangers that could have destroyed you. So he holds you still, not to punish, but to protect. You call it delay. God calls it deliverance. You call it silence. He calls it strategy. You call it waiting. He calls it preparation. And when his appointed moment arrives, everything you prayed for will rush into your life with such force that you'll weep in awe. You'll understand that God never ignored your prayers. He was perfecting them. How often we try to outrun God, thinking we know what's best, craving control, wanting the blessing now. But if you could see the full picture of his divine design, you would fall to your knees and thank him for every delay, every unanswered prayer, every closed door, and every not yet, because hidden within those pauses are miracles that demand maturity. God will not hand you something your character cannot hold. He cannot release a blessing that would break you if given too soon. The waiting is his mercy. The delay is his love. To those who feel like life has come to a standstill, you are not stuck, you are stationed. God has placed you in a season of stillness to align every piece around you while you wait. He is working behind the curtain, softening hearts, shifting circumstances, removing what hinders, and preparing what must emerge. You may not see it, but heaven is active on your behalf. And when the veil lifts and God's timing bursts into your reality, it will happen so swiftly, so powerfully, that you'll cry out, "God, I never saw this coming." You'll weep as his goodness washes over you like a wave, erasing years of pain, drying every tear, and flooding your soul with unspeakable joy. The reason God makes you wait is because he's crafting testimony through time. If everything arrived instantly, you'd never treasure it, never comprehend his ways. But when you've prayed for years, endured sleepless nights, stood through storms, and then God finally moves, you'll fall to your knees in awe and whisper, "God, you were there all along." That's when the tears fall, not tears of sorrow, but tears of holy awe. The kind that flow when you finally realize you were never abandoned. The kind that stream down your face when you see how every trial, every setback, every silent night was guiding you toward this divine moment. You'll cry because the timing was so flawless that only God himself could have orchestrated it. Many people lose heart during the wait. They mistake delay for desertion. But true faith isn't proven when prayers are answered instantly. It's proven in the silence, in the uncertainty, in the stillness. Real faith is when you choose to trust God even when nothing seems to move, and when you refuse to give up, when you keep believing despite the delay. Your endurance touches the heart of heaven. There's something powerful about a believer who waits without complaining, who prays without demanding, who trusts without doubting. That kind of faith commands God's attention. That kind of patience draws divine intervention. You may be standing at your breaking point right now, whispering, "I can't wait any longer." But I'm here to tell you, you're closer than you think. The moment right before your breakthrough often feels like the hardest test because the enemy knows you're almost there. He knows God's timing is near. So he floods your mind with doubt, your heart with fear, and your spirit with frustration. But don't let him deceive you into giving up now. You've endured too much to quit. You've come too far to turn back. God's perfect timing is about to intersect with your faith. And when it does, you won't just receive what you ask for. You'll receive more than you ever dreamed of. Don't measure God's love by how quickly he answers. Measure it by how deeply he cares. He is not a God of instant gratification. He is the God of perfect manifestation, and what he manifests is always worth the wait. When God releases your blessing, it won't merely meet your need. It will surpass your expectations, silence your critics, heal your wounds, and restore what was lost. And when it happens, you'll cry because you'll know it could only be God. Some of you have walked through years of pain, betrayal, and disappointment. You've lost people, hope, and confidence. But you're about to understand why it all had to happen. God's timing will make every tear make sense. Every heartbreak will turn into wisdom. Every loss will become the foundation for your breakthrough. And when the blessing comes, you'll cry again, realizing that not one tear, not one lonely night, not one moment of pain was wasted. You thought the waiting meant God had forgotten you, but he was shaping you for something beyond imagination. God's timing may look delayed from a human view, but it's perfect in the realm of the Spirit. He knows exactly when to open that door, release that miracle, or reveal that purpose. And when he does, it will happen so suddenly, it'll feel like a dream. You'll whisper, "Is this really happening?" As tears roll down your face, tears born from the collision of past pain and present joy. If God answered everything instantly, you'd never learn endurance, never develop faith. Waiting builds trust. Waiting strengthens character. Waiting purifies your heart and teaches you to lean on God's will rather than your own understanding. It reminds you that blessings are not achieved by effort alone, but released through divine timing. The longer the waiting, the heavier the glory that follows. God's greatest rewards often demand the deepest preparation. That's why the pain feels so sharp, because the promise is so immense. When God's timing finally arrives, it will mend what once broke you, restore what you lost, and raise what you thought was gone forever. There will come a quiet moment in your heart when you'll realize that God's hand was guiding you all along. You'll see how he shielded you from destruction, concealed you from danger, protected you from the wrong people, and prepared you for destiny. You'll cry not from grief, but from awe. As you witness the faithfulness of God in full light, his timing will uncover what your pain once concealed. When God is about to move in your life, he first trains you through divine silence. That silence isn't punishment, it's preparation. God hides his hand so your trust can grow stronger. When everything feels motionless, when nothing seems to shift, that's when the roots of your faith dig deep beneath the surface. God uses quiet seasons to sharpen your spiritual hearing. He wants you to recognize his nearness even when you can't feel it, to trust his purpose even when you can't see it. When God delays, it's never forgetfulness, it's refinement. He's perfecting something that only time can shape. You might not grasp it now, but one day his plan will unfold with such beauty that it will bring you to tears. You'll cry because every delay, every silence, every hardship will suddenly make perfect sense. There are times when God strips things away, not to break you, but to rebuild you on firmer ground. Sometimes he removes people, opportunities, or comfort, so that your eyes turn back toward him. God will never compete for your affection. When your heart drifts toward worldly attachments, he lovingly shakes your world to bring you back to dependence. That shaking isn't a curse, it's a calling. It's God whispering, "Trust me again." And when you return, when you learn to rely not on people, but on his timing, you'll find a peace this world can't give. Then when his blessing finally appears, it won't just make you smile, it will make you weep, because you'll realize that the pain which once crushed you was the very tool that drew you closer to him. Sometimes what looks like delay, is actually divine disguise. God hides your blessing behind obstacles, not to frustrate you, but to prepare you. He keeps certain doors shut because he knows what lies beyond requires strength, wisdom, and spiritual maturity. If he opened them too early, they could undo you. God's timing guarantees that when you finally receive what you've been praying for, you'll handle it with gratitude, not arrogance, with humility, not pride. The longer the wait, the deeper the wisdom. The deeper the wisdom, the greater the blessing. That's why when the day comes when everything suddenly aligns, you'll be moved to tears. You will one day look back and understand that every no, every not yet, every closed door was a sacred setup for something far beyond your imagination. There are moments when God delays not to withhold but to protect you from unseen enemies. You might think the delay is holding you back, but in truth it's saving you. God sees what your eyes cannot. He knows who truly loves you and who only pretends. He knows which opportunity is divine and which one is a snare. He knows which path leads to life and which one ends in destruction. So when he slows things down, it's often because he's clearing the road ahead of you, removing what could have shattered your peace, corrupted your purpose, or distracted your soul. You'll cry when you finally see it, when you realize how many silent battles God fought for you, how many disasters he prevented without your awareness, and how many times he kept you from stepping into something that looked right but was dangerous. When that truth settles in your heart, you'll weep in awe at how carefully God has loved you. You may feel the waiting season is lonely, but that's because God often calls you into isolation before elevation. The greatest blessings are conceived in private, not in public. God will pull you away from the noise so he can refine your character in quietness. He will strip away distractions, remove attachments, and silence every competing voice until your heart beats only for him. And when that refining process is complete, when your trust no longer rests on people or circumstances, but on God alone, then he will release what he promised. And when it comes, it won't be small. It will touch every corner of your life, flooding it with divine completion. It will be so perfect, so precise, so rich in heavenly detail, that you'll collapse in gratitude, tears streaming as you whisper, "This could only be God." There will come a day when you'll thank him for not giving you what you once begged for, because not everything you wanted was meant for your destiny. Some desires were distractions disguised as dreams. Some people you fought to keep were never meant to stay. Some opportunities you chased were never meant to be yours. God's mercy sometimes wears the face of rejection. He shuts doors not because he dislikes you, but because he loves you too deeply to let you self-destruct. One day you'll cry tears of gratitude, not regret, when you see that God's no was actually a better yes, perfectly timed and divinely orchestrated. Every season of waiting carries a hidden purpose. God uses delay to build discipline, disappointment to sharpen discernment, and pain to deepen purpose. While you're focused on reaching the destination, God is focused on shaping your transformation. He's not just leading you to the promise, he's preparing you to sustain it. Many can receive a blessing, but few can carry it well. That's why God works more on you than on what you're praying for. The real miracle isn't only in what you receive. It's in who you become while waiting. And when that blessing finally manifests, your tears will not just reflect what you gained, but who you became through the process. God often has to bring you to the edge of surrender before he releases what you've been waiting for. He has to break your will so that his will can rise. He has to let every human effort fail until you learn to depend completely on him. It's when you stop forcing things, stop panicking, and simply whisper, God, whenever you're ready, I trust you, that heaven begins to shift on your behalf. The waiting becomes sacred ground, a place where your heart is purified, your perspective realigned, and your faith refined until it cannot be shaken. That's when God steps in. That's when his timing unfolds in brilliance. And when it does, you'll cry, because it will be so sudden, so magnificent, and so perfect that every ounce of pain will fade in the light of his glory. What you don't realize is that every second you've waited faithfully is written into the divine script. God has seen your effort, your patience, your quiet endurance. He's watched the nights you cried yourself to sleep, praying prayers no one else knew. Not a single tear has gone unseen. Every tear is a seed. Every prayer is an investment. Every small act of faith is adding to your harvest. And when the appointed moment comes, that harvest will return multiplied, pressed down, shaken together, and overflowing. You'll cry not just because of the blessings, but because you'll realize that God saw you at your lowest and still believed in your future. Some of you wonder, why does God make me wait so long? Because he's writing a story that will strengthen others. Your pain carries purpose beyond what you can comprehend. You're not just waiting for yourself. You're waiting for the countless lives that will draw courage from your story. God is shaping you into a vessel of endurance, a living testimony that trust in divine timing never ends in disappointment. One day your tears will testify to his perfection. You'll cry not from pain, but from the revelation that your waiting became someone else's hope. And remember this, when God moves, he moves suddenly. One moment you're waiting, and the next everything shifts. That's the mystery of divine timing. It feels late until it happens, and then you realize it was right on schedule. God doesn't move by minutes or hours. He moves by seasons and purpose. When your season arrives, no force of darkness can hinder it. No person, system, or opposition can block what God has ordained. You'll watch the impossible unfold effortlessly. Doors will open without knocking. Answers will appear without striving. The very things you were chasing will start chasing you. And when that happens, you'll cry not only because of the blessing, but because of the power and precision of God's timing. There's a reason he allows you to walk through storms before seeing sunshine. He's not breaking your spirit. He's revealing your strength. The storm is the test before the triumph. It's in the storm that endurance is built, where your ear learns to discern God's whisper, and when you emerge stronger, wiser, and still standing, that's when God knows you're finally ready. Then the blessing comes, and it will be so radiant, so divine, that all you can do is weep in gratitude. You'll look back and realize that every wave that threatened to drown you was actually carrying you closer to God. There will come a moment when everything you've endured will collide with its divine purpose. The tears, the heartbreaks, the long nights, all of it will suddenly align, and you'll understand that nothing was accidental. God was orchestrating it all. Every delay was intentional. Every setback was sacred. Every disappointment was a divine redirection leading you toward destiny. God never wastes pain. He transforms its sorrow into strength, loss into wisdom, waiting into preparation, and silence into revelation. You may have thought he had forgotten you, but God never forgets his promises. When his appointed time arrives, it will be so breathtakingly beautiful that your heart will overflow beyond words. You'll cry because you'll finally see his timing was never late. It was perfect. building something eternal within you. When God's time comes, you won't have to strive or chase. You won't need to manipulate or force doors open. Everything will unfold seamlessly, as if heaven itself had been holding its breath, waiting for that precise moment to breathe on your life. You'll step into rooms you never thought to enter, meet people you never sought, and receive blessings that no amount of effort could have produced. That's what happens when human patience aligns with divine timing. When God says, now the natural and the supernatural converge, you'll witness how every no became a better yes, how every detour turned into a bridge, how every ache produced purpose. You'll cry because the puzzle pieces will finally fit. You'll cry because you'll see that God was never just preparing the blessing for you. He was preparing you for the blessing. There's something sacred about how God works. He rarely reveals the full process. He conceals it to protect it. He allows confusion to hide the masterpiece he's forming. And while you question, doubt, and wrestle for understanding, he's quietly arranging what's beyond your comprehension. You might think nothing is happening, but in reality, everything is happening. Heaven's timeline never lags. When God sets a divine appointment for your turnaround, not even time itself can resist. What belongs to you cannot be taken by anyone. What is destined for your life cannot be blocked by envy, gossip, or evil. God's timing is your shield, your assurance, your ultimate victory. When that moment comes, you'll remember all the times you nearly gave up, all the nights you cried, all the seasons that felt endless. But you didn't quit. You held on, and that divine fulfillment will make every tear worth it. You'll cry not from the pain, but from the perfection. You'll realize that the same God who walked with you through the valley was the one preparing your table on the mountaintop. You'll cry because you'll see he was closer in your pain than you ever imagined. Sometimes God delays what you desire most because he's testing what you love most. He wants to know if your faith rests in the blessing or in the one who gives it. That's why certain doors remain closed until you stop worshiping the outcome and start trusting the one who holds it. When you finally release control, when you stop begging and start believing, when you stop panicking and start praising, that's when the spiritual atmosphere begins to shift. God's timing isn't moved by desperation but by trust. When your heart fully surrenders, heaven takes notice. And in that sacred stillness, at the very moment you least expect it, everything begins to transform. When it does, it won't just bring calm. It will bring tears of holy wonder. Understand this: God never rushes because he's writing eternal stories, not temporary ones. He's not bound by your clock. He moves according to his divine calendar. What appears delayed to man is perfectly timed in eternity. You may think you've been held back, but you're actually being positioned. You may feel forgotten, but you're being prepared. Every step, every pause, every closed door, every lonely season, all of it is part of God's hidden construction plan. And when the architecture of your destiny is unveiled, you'll stand speechless, weeping in awe, because you'll see how masterfully he placed each stone. How he used pain as the foundation and faithfulness as the frame. When God's moment arrives, confusion will vanish. You won't have to force doors open. Peace will confirm what striving never could. Opportunities will unfold naturally. What once resisted you will now pursue you. That is the difference between human timing and divine timing. When man forces it, it brings exhaustion. When God ordains it, everything flows with ease. You won't need to push. You'll simply step into what was always prepared for you. That's why patience is not weakness, it's power. Waiting on God isn't passivity. It's divine preparation for alignment. Those who wait on him never lose. They rise. When the world crumbles, they stand firm. When others fade, they flourish. And when their moment comes, blessings overflow beyond measure. There will come a moment so near now when your life will shift so suddenly that you'll have to remind yourself it's real. What was once a whispered prayer will become your tangible reality. The ones who doubted you will fall silent. The wounds that tormented you will be healed. The losses that broke you will be replaced with something far greater. As it all unfolds, tears will stream down your face as the presence of God overwhelms you so deeply that words will fail. It will feel as though the years of waiting are washed away in a flood of divine joy. You'll see that every delay was sacred choreography, and the rhythm of God's timing never missed a single beat. Don't despise the years of preparation. You're being refined, not rejected. God is teaching you to handle abundance by testing you in scarcity, to value peace by guiding you through storms, and to discern truth by exposing you to deception. Each experience is a divine classroom. And when you graduate, your blessings won't just arrive, they'll remain. Because what God builds through process cannot be broken by pressure. And when it happens, you'll cry not from pain, but from revelation, realizing that what once felt like punishment was protection, and what once felt like abandonment was an invitation to deeper faith. Even now, while you're wondering where God is, He's already working behind the scenes. He's already whispering your name in rooms you haven't yet entered. He's already softening hearts to show you favor. He's already commanding circumstances to shift in your direction. You may not sense it yet, but the spiritual sound of your breakthrough has already been released. It's only a matter of time before the invisible becomes visible. And when it happens, it will come so suddenly that your emotions won't be able to keep up with your gratitude. You'll cry because you'll finally understand that God was never late. He was aligning your life perfectly with His plan. The beauty of divine timing is that when it unfolds, it redeems every lost season. One blessing from God can recover what a decade of effort never could. One divine moment can wipe away years of disappointment. One yes from God can silence 1,000 no's from people. That's why the waiting is never wasted. God is storing up goodness for you, multiplying it while He refines you. And when it's released, it will feel as though heaven's floodgates have opened wide. You'll cry because the blessing will be too overwhelming to contain, not heavy with burden, but heavy with glory. So hold on a little longer. You're closer to your divine turning point than you think. The same God who started the work in you will never leave it unfinished. The same hand that guided you through the valley will lift you to the mountain. The same voice that once told you to wait will soon whisper now. And when that now comes, it will bring you to tears of awe. It will silence your fears, heal your wounds, and restore your joy. You'll look around and realize that the God who seemed quiet was actually crafting your story, one that only His timing could bring to life. When God's timing finally appears, it won't just shift your circumstances, it will transform you. It will awaken parts of your soul you never knew were there. It will deepen your gratitude, stretch your faith, and expand your love for Him. You'll cry because you'll know no human hand could have arranged what just unfolded. It was divine. It was intentional. It was flawless. It was God. Listen closely, because what I'm about to share may awaken something deep within your spirit. There are moments in life when you can sense an unseen shift taking place. You can't define it, you can't visualize it, but deep inside you feel that a divine current is starting to move in your favor. When the storms have raged too long, when your strength feels depleted, When every door you've knocked on seems sealed shut, then suddenly out of nowhere, God intervenes. He begins to align people, resources, and opportunities perfectly into your path. What once appeared impossible starts unfolding right before your eyes, my friend. This is not your imagination. This is divine orchestration. This is the moment when unexpected provision from heaven is being directed toward you. You may have assumed your season of struggle would never end. You may have been staring at the numbers, watching your balance drop, wondering how you'd make it through another week. But God is not limited by your income, your job title, or your human connections. When He determines to bless you, He doesn't need approval. He doesn't check your record. He commands creation and creation responds. The same God who brought water from a rock and manna from the sky is the same God who can bring supernatural supply into your life from places you never imagined. You are not forgotten. You are not unseen. Even now, as you receive these words, the hand of God is moving in hidden spaces and divine resources are being directed toward your life. There are times when God allows us to walk through seasons of scarcity, not to break us, but to build trust. When the streams run dry, our eyes turn upward to heaven, and that's when the miracle begins. Too often people rely only on what they can control, earn, or manipulate. But God wants to prove that His provision flows on a higher frequency. Economies may falter, markets may fall, banks may close, but heaven's supply is limitless. His wealth never diminishes. His generosity knows no measure. And when He decides to act on your behalf, no policy, no person, no power can interfere. Understand this truth. When God releases unexpected funds, it's about far more than finances. It's about His sovereignty. It's a declaration that He alone sustains every resource that reaches your hand, every door that opens suddenly, every stranger who helps at just the right moment. These are signs that heaven has acknowledged your situation. You're not surviving by luck. You're being upheld by divine intention. There are moments when God whispers to someone miles away, across a city, a nation, or even the world and says, "Bless that one." And they respond without ever knowing your name. That's how precise His hand is. He can speak to anyone, anywhere, anytime to ensure that what belongs to you finds its way to you. Too often people limit God's power by measuring it against their reality. They say, "I don't see a way." But that's exactly the essence of faith. You're not supposed to see it. Faith means trusting that while you rest, while you wait, while you pray, God is weaving miracles on your behalf. Faith believes that the same God who calls every star by name also knows every detail of your need, and He's already making a way. So when you start expecting something from God, don't waste energy trying to predict how it will arrive. Just trust that it will. The provision may not come through the path you imagined or the person you anticipated, but when it shows up, it will arrive precisely on time, carrying the undeniable fingerprint of heaven. There are moments when divine supply enters a person's life so suddenly that words fail them. One day they're pleading for breakthrough, and the next they're holding the miracle in their hands. That's the mystery of God's timing. He rarely gives advance notice before releasing His blessing. He doesn't need to, because when His appointed moment comes, He doesn't move slowly. He moves suddenly. A debt you thought would take years to erase is cleared in an instant. An investment you nearly forgot surprises you with increase. A person you once helped long ago reappears with generosity you never expected. These aren't coincidences. They're confirmations that God is still in control. You see, God loves to astonish his people. He doesn't simply meet needs, he surpasses them. He takes what looked like an ending and transforms it into a new beginning. He multiplies what you assumed was finished. And the beauty of it all is that when he provides in ways you never planned, gratitude floods your heart because you know it could only have been him. No human hand could have orchestrated it. Only God could have written that testimony. And you fall to your knees, not from fear but from thankfulness, realizing the Creator of the universe remembered you and sent help in your moment of need. Some of you hearing this are right in the middle of a waiting season. You've prayed, believed, and stayed faithful, yet nothing seems to move. You wonder if heaven has gone silent. But listen, God has not forgotten your name. His silence is not his absence. Sometimes he withholds the blessing to strengthen your faith. Sometimes he waits until the very last moment to ensure that when it comes, your heart is mature enough to handle it. Because if you receive too soon, you may waste it. But if you receive in his perfect time, you will multiply. God's timing is never random. It is precise, purposeful, and perfect. And for someone reading this right now, that timing is unfolding. The provision that was delayed is being released. The doors that were sealed are being unlocked. The help you've prayed for is already on its way. Unexpected funds are tracking you down. You may not see the evidence yet, but the transaction has already been approved in heaven's court. The system of divine provision is already active. What you're waiting for has already been assigned to your name. But remember, God isn't only preparing the blessing, he's preparing you. He's strengthening your faith, refining your patience, and aligning your heart with his will. Because when the provision arrives, he doesn't just want you to spend it. He wants you to steward it. He wants those blessings to flow through you to lift others and to display his goodness on the earth. That's why God's blessings often arrive cloaked in mystery, because they're not just meant to fill your hands, they're meant to fulfill your purpose. Every time God blesses you, he's delivering a message. I am your source, not your employer, not your clients, not your family. I am. And when that truth takes root in your spirit, you become unstoppable. You stop panicking when doors close because you know the provider owns countless others. You stop grieving when people walk away because your blessing was never attached to them. You stop doubting when the math doesn't make sense because divine mathematics never fails. God can multiply what man calls small, turn scarcity into overflow, and he's about to do it for you. There is a spiritual principle that never fails. Where faith exists, provision follows. Not faith in luck, not faith in effort, but faith in God alone. When you believe that he can release unexpected provision, you begin to posture yourself to receive it. You shift from begging in fear to expecting in confidence. You start thanking him before the funds arrive. And that posture of gratitude unlocks the flow of divine supply. For gratitude is the doorway no amount of money can open, but faith can. When your heart begins to thank God in advance, heaven responds by releasing what earth has been holding back. There comes a sacred moment in every life when God begins to rearrange the unseen. You might not detect it at first. The days still feel ordinary, the nights still long, the bills still stacked on your desk. Yet somewhere in the invisible realm, God has already spoken a command. The resources assigned to your next chapter have been released. The messengers of abundance are already moving. carrying what belongs to you. God never forgets those who trust him. He never misplaces a promise. When you walk by faith, you draw provision like a magnet. The instant your heart aligns with his word, heaven pauses to act. You may not hear footsteps, but the blessing is moving closer. You may not see evidence, but divine funds are being directed toward you. God is not a man that he should forget. He keeps flawless records. Every seed you've planted, every prayer whispered, every tear shed in private, he has recorded them, and he will reward. When God decides to release provision, it's never limited to what's in your account. His supply flows through ideas, through people, through moments of favor you couldn't have engineered. One act of obedience can open a river that changes everything. You might meet someone who speaks your name in the right room. You might uncover an opportunity that was hidden until now. You might receive a call, a message, or an encounter that rewrites your story. That's how God operates, silently, precisely, powerfully. And when his appointed time arrives, it doesn't take years. It happens in an instant. What was delayed becomes delivered. What was withheld becomes released. The same God who formed the heavens with a word can speak one divine instruction that unleashes abundance into your life. Never underestimate what he can accomplish in a single day. But let me share a truth that many struggle to accept. Before God releases financial increase, he first examines the heart. He asks, can I trust you with what I'm about to release? Because divine provision is never meant for personal indulgence, it's meant for purpose. God blesses those who understand that wealth is a tool, not a master. He pours out abundance on those prepared to use their resources to shine light in darkness and bring hope where despair once lived. If you are faithful in little, he will entrust you with more. But when greed, pride, or fear control your motives, the flow is interrupted. That's why humility guards the gateway of divine provision. When your heart stays surrendered before God, when you recognize that every opportunity and every resource originates from him alone, he not only provides, he multiplies. Sometimes God holds back financial release until the lesson is learned. What feels like delay is often divine protection. He knows that premature blessing can crush an unprepared soul. If he gave you everything before your character was ready, it could pull you away from him. So he waits until your foundation is strong enough to handle overflow. And when that moment comes, nothing can stop it. Not the economy, not inflation, not opposition. When God says it's time, your name will be spoken in rooms you've never entered. Your work will draw eyes you've never met, and doors you never knocked on will swing open. That's how divine favor operates. It moves without explanation. When God blesses, he doesn't rely on logic. He responds to faith. Logic says, I'm not qualified. Faith says, God can qualify me. Logic says, I don't know the right people. Faith declares, God will align me with the right ones at the perfect moment. Logic says, there's no way. Faith whispers, watch God make a way. The moment you choose faith over logic, you activate heaven's system of provision. God doesn't respond to complaints, he responds to belief. He doesn't honor fear, he honors trust. If you can trust him in lack, he will show you how to live in abundance without losing your peace. And understand this, not every blessing comes as money. Sometimes God gives you wisdom that prevents loss. Sometimes he opens your eyes to opportunities that multiply over time. Sometimes he moves someone's heart to erase a debt or send help for reasons they can't explain. These two are currencies in God's economy. His riches are not always measured in dollars. They're measured in miracles. And when you begin to notice his hand in every detail, gratitude will overflow. You stop chasing blessings because you realize that walking with God causes blessings to chase you. Let that truth settle deep in your spirit. God knows exactly where you are and precisely what you need. He is never confined by your circumstance. He can locate you in the wilderness, find you in the crowd, or lift you when others have forgotten your name. There is no limit to his supply, no barrier that can resist his command. When God chooses to fund your destiny, he doesn't inspect your resume. He examines your faith. He looks for the one who still believes, the one who keeps standing when everything else seems to collapse. And to that person, he says, "Now watch what I will do. My friend, if your heart is still anchored in trust, you are next in line for divine surprise. The unexpected provision of God is already moving toward you. There are some listening right now who have been faithful in private, helping others when you had little, giving when no one noticed, believing while others mocked your faith, praying when everyone else quit, and wondering if God even saw. Hear this clearly, he did. Every act of faith has been recorded. Every sacrifice was witnessed, and God never forgets to repay. He rewards with increase. The provision coming to you is not random. It's the harvest from the seeds you sowed in faith. When you showed kindness, when you gave generously, when you refused to complain during struggle, you were offering your own story of favor. Now the season of reaping has arrived. There is something extraordinary about divine timing. You may feel late, but on God's calendar you're exactly on time. The same delay that tested your patience is the reason your blessing will now come without resistance. While you were waiting, God was working, aligning heart, shifting situations, and clearing the path for your miracle. And now as your faith rises again, the release begins. The resources assigned to you are being gathered. The spiritual gates are opening. What was unseen is about to manifest. But remember, this blessing isn't for luxury, it's for purpose. God funds assignment. He provides for those willing to use what they receive to bring light into darkness. When he knows that abundance won't corrupt your spirit, he expands your capacity. Because the more you give, the more you receive, the more you bless, the more you are blessed. You're not designed to be a container, but a conduit, a river that receives and releases, never runs dry. In the same way, when your hands stay open before God, your life never lacks. So if something inside you stirs as you hear this, it's your spirit recognizing truth. God is not finished with you. He's about to astonish you. You'll look back on this season and realize that every hardship was preparation for the blessing now unfolding. The nights that made you weep will become testimonies of provision. The same trembling hands that once worried will soon rise in gratitude. The same lips that once asked, "How will I survive?" will soon proclaim, "God has exceeded my expectations." He is the master of sudden shifts. One touch of his favor can erase years of limitation. One divine command can open doors generations couldn't unlock. Never underestimate what happens when you stay faithful. Faith isn't just believing that God can, it's knowing that he will. It's walking as though the miracle, the provision, the funds are already on the way. It is thanking him before the balance shifts, praising him before the agreement is finalized, and giving even while you're still waiting to receive. When you live this way, you become unstoppable because your supply is no longer anchored to human systems. You are directly connected to the source of all creation. You live in rhythm with divine flow, and where divine flow exists, lack cannot remain. The moment has come for your story to change. God is orchestrating a financial breakthrough so astonishing that it will humble you. It will silence every doubt and strengthen your faith. You will stand in awe, not because of the amount, but because of the precision, the timing, and the personal touch of the miracle. So exact, so intentional, that you'll know only God could have authored it. That's the beauty of divine provision. It carries a signature no human hand can imitate. There are seasons when the heart feels confined by limitation, when life grows still and your faith begins to whisper questions in the dark. Yet it's often in that very silence that God begins his hidden work. He allows the quiet so your spirit can tune in to the gentle movement of his hand. You may not see it, but right now your name is being mentioned in rooms you've never entered. People are being positioned to meet you, not by accident, but by divine coordination. Doors that seemed locked are being prepared to open. The provision you've been praying for is already in motion. When God decides to fund the destiny, no power in existence can block the delivery. His methods are higher than ours, and his supply chain doesn't follow human logic. You might expect your blessing from one direction, yet he sends it from another. You might think you've run out of options, but God has 1,000 unseen routes to reach you. He can use unexpected circumstances, even what look like failure, to channel provision into your life. Remember this: when one well dries up, he's already preparing another source to flow. A drought in one area often signals that a new river is about to break forth elsewhere. Never mistake silence for abandonment. It's often the pause before overflow. Many view provision as rescue, but God uses it as revelation to remind you that he has always been your source. Before the funds appear, before the opportunity manifests, he is already enough. And when your heart truly rests in that truth, the flow of provision begins naturally, because God responds to trust, not desperation. When faith matures from pleading to believing, heaven opens. You begin to walk not as one searching for help, but as one expecting fulfillment. That posture of confidence draws resources in ways effort never could. Consider the birds of the air. They don't store. They don't stress, yet they never go hungry. Each morning creation awakens to provision that was prepared before sunrise. How much more will your Father care for those who carry his purpose? If the smallest creatures are sustained daily, will he not sustain the one chosen to fulfill his divine plan? You were never designed to fear tomorrow's needs. You were created to live in continual partnership with heaven's supply. When your mind aligns with that truth, fear loses its grip and miracles begin to unfold. Because faith is the fertile ground where provision takes root. Sometimes God sends unexpected resources, not just to meet your need, but to teach others through your testimony. When people witness his hand at work in your life, their faith ignites. They begin to believe that what God did for you, he can do for them. Every blessing carries a story, and every divine gift carries a message. God is still moving. Your increase is never only about you. It's a visible display of God's faithfulness to everyone who dares to trust him. So when provision arrives, receive it with gratitude and humility, for it's a reminder that you're part of something far greater than yourself. What you may not realize is that your faith has a sound in the spiritual realm. When you trust God in seasons of lack, heaven hears it. When you speak words of praise while others complain, you release a vibration that catches divine attention. He commands creation to align with your belief. The winds of favor start to stir, aligning opportunities, softening hearts, and adjusting timing until everything that once worked against you begins to work for you. That's how God moves quietly, intentionally, powerfully. And sometimes the blessing will come through unexpected forms that test your humility. God may choose a source that surprises you, a person you once blessed, a situation you nearly dismissed, or an opportunity that didn't look significant. Don't despise the vessel he uses. Keep your focus on the source, not the channel. If you limit your expectation to what looks logical, you'll miss what's miraculous. God often hides provision in places of simplicity, so only the faithful can recognize it. That's how he protects the humble from missing the miracle and keeps the proud from claiming the credit. Many assume that receiving unexpected funds is merely about money, but it goes far deeper. It's about divine trust being awakened. It's God's way of saying, I've seen your faithfulness and now I'm honoring it. It's not a transaction, it's a covenant. Each act of provision renews his promise to you. And that covenant carries protection. What God sends cannot be stolen, cursed, or lost. It will fulfill its divine purpose. If heaven has assigned it to you, it will find you no matter how long it takes. So do not fear the delays. They are not denials. Heaven's timing is never hurried, yet never late. If the blessing hasn't arrived yet, it's because God is preparing something beyond what you asked for. He may be positioning the right people, refining your character, or establishing the habits needed for stewardship. Because he's not only giving you a blessing, he's building you into someone strong enough to sustain it. The preparation may feel weighty, but it's holy work. Every moment of waiting is shaping you into the kind of vessel that can carry abundance without ever being destroyed by it. When the unexpected provision arrives, it comes carrying a divine purpose. It comes to expand your mission, to strengthen your family, to uplift your community, and to deepen your faith. It transforms you from a receiver into a distributor of blessings. Because in the economy of heaven, prosperity is never meant to be stored, it's meant to flow. God blesses those who become vessels of his generosity. When you give from what he has entrusted to you, you multiply the stream. The more you release, the more finds its way back to you. It's not a cycle of depletion, it's a rhythm of divine exchange. What flows through your hands in faith never leaves your life. It returns multiplied in ways beyond prediction. And if you're in a season of struggle right now, hear this truth with the strength of your spirit. This is not your end. It's your setup. The same God who sustained prophets in deserts and delivered leaders from captivity is watching over you. He can summon supply from the farthest corners of creation. He can stir the heart of a stranger, shift entire systems, or alter time itself to deliver what you need. No distance is too great, no wall too thick, no problem too tangled for his power to move through. When he declares provision, locate my servant, all of creation responds. You may have been betrayed, overlooked, or forgotten by people, but God has never missed your name. Every loss you've endured has been noted. Every heartbreak has been measured. And when he restores, he doesn't return what was lost. He multiplies it. He transforms scarcity into abundance, pain into purpose, and waiting into wisdom. That kind of increase cannot be measured by human systems. It's not merely financial. It's the restoration of faith, dignity, and divine strength. When God funds your purpose, he funds it fully. There's a reason some walk in continual overflow while others strive in lack. It's not talent alone, it's alignment. When your thoughts, actions, and intentions align with God's design, provision becomes effortless. You stop chasing after it because it begins to chase you. You become a magnet for the miraculous. You live so in tune with divine flow that even when you're unaware, resources are being directed toward you. And when people ask how it happened, your answer will be simple and true. God did it. That testimony speaks louder than any sermon. So lift your head and strengthen your faith. Speak as one who knows heaven's treasure is never empty. Walk as one who believes that the same power that sustains galaxies is sustaining you. Expect provision not as charity, but as a divine inheritance reserved for those who walk in faith and obedience. The moment your expectation is pure, heaven responds with precision. Blessings have ears, they hear faith. Resources have direction, they follow obedience. Miracles have momentum, they move toward gratitude. When your life is filled with these three, faith, obedience, and gratitude, nothing can stop what God has ordained for you. And when the unexpected funds come, don't conceal them. Consecrate them. Use them with wisdom. Let them testify of God's goodness through your stewardship. Let others see that abundance is not pride, it's proof. Use it to uplift others, to ease burdens, and to reflect the heart of the giver himself, to open doors others assumed were forever closed. Because when you use God's provision for God's purpose, the flow never runs dry. It becomes a river that brings life to everything it touches. That is how divine abundance operates. It blesses far beyond the one who receives it. Even now the shift is already unfolding. As you listen, something is being orchestrated in your favor. Somewhere your name is being spoken in the right room. Somewhere an opportunity is being formed that perfectly matches your need. Somewhere the resources that have been waiting are being released. You may not see when or how, but you will recognize it when it arrives. It will come clothed in perfect timing, carrying peace so deep that you'll know it could only be from God. My friend, as you stand in this sacred space between what was and what's about to be, remember this unshakable truth. God has never left your side. Even when the path was painful, even when the way ahead seemed hidden, He was there guiding you quietly, carrying you through storms you thought would break you. Every tear you shed was noticed. Every whispered prayer was heard, and even now, in this very breath, God is working within you, shaping your destiny, refining your heart, and preparing you for something greater than your imagination can hold. So rise with new strength. Lift your head high and make a decision. You will no longer walk by fear or by the opinions of others, but by faith in the unseen power of God. Do not let your past define your worth, nor let your pain silence your voice. Instead, let every scar remind you that you are still chosen, still protected, still loved by the same God who hung the stars and breathed life into your being. He has never forsaken His creation, and He will not forsake you. Step forward with courage. Release the bitterness, the doubt, and every voice that insists you are not enough. You are enough because God decided the world needed your existence. Live each day as a vessel of His light. Be the one who forgives when others hold grudges, who believes when others doubt, who stands firm and trusts when everything feels uncertain. Because it's in surrender, not comfort, that God's presence becomes most real. And when the night feels long and your heart trembles in uncertainty, remember this: God's silence is never his absence. His stillness is often his masterpiece in progress. He moves quietly, but always with precision. He waits patiently, but always with purpose. And in his perfect timing, he will show you why every delay, every detour, and every pain had to happen exactly as it did. Go forward now with peace in your spirit. Live not merely to survive, but to glorify the one who never stopped believing in you. Let your thoughts be rooted in faith, your actions guided by humility, and your heart unshaken by the world's noise. Because when you walk with God, you are never truly alone. And that is where real strength, real freedom, and real life begin. Before the transformation of your life unfolds, before the winds of change begin to blow in your favor, God always releases a final instruction. It's not an order designed to confuse you, but to prepare you. It's not meant to slow your progress, but to build your strength right now. I want you to feel this deep in your spirit. God is whispering. Something powerful is about to shift within your life. The season you've been believing for is approaching, and the doors that remain closed for years are about to swing open. But before they do, God is saying, get ready to move. There are seasons in every life when the ground beneath you starts to shake. Not because things are collapsing, but because something new is being constructed. The shaking isn't a sign of destruction. It's evidence of divine preparation. God shakes what's unstable so he can make space for what cannot be shaken. Many weep when the shaking begins, unaware that it's God's method of moving them from comfort into calling. The shift never begins in your surroundings. It begins within your soul. That's why God's final command isn't about what's around you, but what's inside you. When God says, get ready to move, he's not asking you to pack your belongings. He's asking you to prepare your heart. Because the shift that's coming is not ordinary. It's sacred. It's not another chapter. It's an entirely new book. Yet before the new can begin, God always tests your readiness. Are you willing to let go of what no longer aligns with your next season? Are you ready to step into what you cannot yet see, trusting that God has already gone before you? For too long, some of you have stood at the edge of promise, gazing at the land God spoke of, but hesitating to step forward. You've prayed, you've waited, you've wept, and still you wonder, when will it happen? God's answer is clear. It will happen when you move. You can't remain in the comfort zone and expect the miracle of transformation. God's shift always demands a step of faith, and before he releases it, he gives a holy warning. Get ready, because where you stand now cannot contain what I'm about to release. Every divine movement in your life begins with a sacred instruction that challenges your obedience. When God told Noah to build an ark, there was no rain. When he told Abraham to leave his country, there was no map. When he told Moses to lift his staff over the sea, there was no bridge. Yet in every instance, obedience became the threshold to divine motion. God doesn't require your full understanding. He requires your readiness. The moment you act on what doesn't make sense, you step into what only God can make possible. Right now, some of you are in that waiting tension, caught between what God promised and what you currently perceive. You sense change stirring, though you can't quite define it. You're uneasy yet unsure why. That restlessness is not fear. It's divine movement, awakening your spirit. God is shaking your foundation because he's positioning you to stand on higher ground. The same ground that once felt stable is now uneasy because God is saying you can't stay here any longer. When God begins to shift things, he doesn't announce it with volume, he declares it with conviction. Suddenly, you start feeling detached from old cycles, past relationships, familiar habits, and empty conversations. You lose interest in what once thrilled you. That isn't loss, it's awakening. God is quietly disconnecting you from what was to make room for what's coming. The worst mistake in this season is to cling to what God is trying to release. When he says get ready to move, he's not inviting discussion, he's calling for surrender. Many miss their divine transition because they wait for the perfect timing, wanting every detail to make sense before obeying. Yet God's directions rarely come with full explanations. Faith isn't about understanding all, it's trusting him when nothing aligns. If you wait to understand, you'll postpone what heaven wants to start. If you wait to feel ready, you'll miss your moment. Readiness isn't about having answers, it's about having a willing heart. When God speaks of movement, he's not referring to geography, but to spiritual promotion. He's saying, you've been here long enough, you've prayed, cried, and learned enough. Now it's time to move. You can't gain new strength while holding on to old fears. You can't step into a new season while clutching the last one. The same God who sustained you in the wilderness is now guiding you toward overflow. But he won't push. You must follow. When he says move, he expects obedience without hesitation. There comes a moment when delay becomes disobedience. When God gives a final word, it's because time is expiring for hesitation. The door about to open won't remain open forever. Every opportunity carries divine timing. Wait too long and you'll be praying for what already passed. God's message is simple. Prepare yourself, for I'm about to do something new. The question is, will you be ready when the shift begins? Preparation for movement always starts in silence. Before God moves you outward, he transforms you inward. He begins refining your thoughts, motives, hidden fears, and quiet doubts. You may feel stripped, as though everything familiar is being removed, but that's purification before promotion. God can't fill what's already full. He must empty you of pride, fear, and dependence on others to pour in his peace, strength, and wisdom. Some of you are in that refining fire right now. You've lost what you thought was essential, watched people leave whom you believed would stay, and seen doors close that you assumed would open. But what if that was God's way of saying, get ready to move? What if the disappointment wasn't rejection but redirection? Remember, God often subtracts before he multiplies. He takes away what no longer belongs, so you can step into your next season with lighter hands and a freer heart. When God is preparing to shift your life, he rarely reveals the full blueprint. He releases one direction at a time because he wants your faith to move in rhythm with his voice, not rush ahead with assumptions. Many of us crave to see the entire map before taking the first step. But if God unveiled everything ahead, fear might stop you from ever beginning. The unknown isn't your threat. It's God's training ground. It's where trust turns into action and faith becomes the daily walk. Some of you can feel God whispering, it's time. You've prayed enough. You've waited enough. You've sat in that valley long enough. The door is opening, but you must be ready to walk through. When the Israelites reached the edge of the Red Sea, God didn't split it first. He said, move forward. The waters didn't part until their feet did. That's the rhythm of faith. You move and then God makes a way. Don't be surprised if his final command arrives when you feel least prepared. God often speaks in moments of exhaustion, not comfort, because that's when your trust in him becomes genuine. When your strength fades, his begins. The shift doesn't demand perfection. It calls for surrender. You don't need every answer, just the willingness to say, Lord, I'm ready. The next chapter of your life won't resemble the last. The spaces that once felt right will start to feel too small. God is drawing you out of patterns, out of comfort, out of habits that hold your potential hostage. The uneasiness you've been sensing is your spirit recognizing what your mind hasn't caught up to yet. You're being prepared for movement. The winds of transformation are gathering, and God is arranging your divine repositioning. You're not only moving forward, you're ascending. Some of you have prayed for breakthrough but stayed in the same spiritual spot too long, circling the same mountains, replaying the same disappointments. God is saying, you've gained what you needed from this mountain. Now move northward. Don't let your past become your permanent dwelling. Yes, yesterday's lessons were meant to shape you, not define you. The shift that's coming won't just alter your situation. It will redefine your identity. You won't think the same, crave the same, or rely on the same sources of comfort. When God moves you, he transforms you. The person entering the shift will not be the one who comes out. That's why the preparation feels painful. Because God isn't only changing your direction, he's reshaping your nature. He's removing your dependence on others so that your confidence rests solely in him. He will quiet every distraction so you can recognize his voice without interference. He will allow certain doors to shut not as punishment, but as redirection toward the ones aligned with your destiny. Every delay you've encountered was divine discipline, cultivating your endurance. Every rejection you've endured was God safeguarding your direction. Each closed door was his way of saying this is not where your purpose resides. When God is preparing to move you, he doesn't need your approval, but he does invite your participation. He wants you to trust him enough to follow without limitations. That's the essence of faith. Walking when the path isn't visible. Moving when the light barely shines ahead. Faith doesn't require certainty. It requires conviction. And hear this, the shift won't arrive in comfort. It will arrive through challenge. It will bring decisions that test your trust and moments that stretch your patience. God isn't trying to make your journey harder. He's building your strength for what's coming. You can't step into tomorrow's miracle while clinging to yesterday's mindset. You must let it go. You may not grasp everything God is orchestrating right now, but you can trust that it's working for your good. You've wept over doors that closed, yet one day you'll praise him for them. You've mourned your losses, but soon you'll see they were necessary for your growth. Every unanswered prayer, every pause, every detour, they've all been leading to this very moment. God's final instruction before your shift isn't complex. It's clear, direct, and urgent. When God gives a final word, it carries the full weight of destiny. It's not a suggestion or a mere whisper of possibility. It's a divine decree demanding action. And when God says, get ready to move, he's announcing that your waiting season is over. He's declaring, I've seen your tears, I've heard your cries. Now I am fulfilling my promise. But fulfillment is never random. It demands preparation. God won't pour new blessings into an unready vessel. He won't release new power into an untested heart. He won't usher you into promise until you're mature enough to hold it with humility. So when you feel that stirring within, when everything around you starts shifting and nothing feels familiar, understand this. It's not the enemy, it's not chaos, it's God positioning you for movement. You can't remain where you are because the place you're in can no longer contain what He has planted within you. Growth requires movement. The seed must break before the tree can rise. And the breaking you feel isn't your ending, it's your beginning. There are times when God interrupts your routine, not to hurt you, but to awaken you. Routine can make you spiritually numb. You start living by habit instead of faith, relying on plans instead of His presence. And when that happens, God shakes what you thought was solid, so you can find stability in Him alone. He's not trying to confuse you. He's trying to refocus you. The uncertainty you feel is often not chaos, but divine disruption. The uncertainty you're wrestling with is God's gentle signal saying, I'm lifting you to a higher place. Before every divine transition, there comes a moment of separation. God begins to distance you from people, environments, and habits that no longer fit your assignment. You may not understand why connections fade, why doors close, or why once promising opportunities suddenly disappear. But listen carefully. Separation is not rejection, it is selection. God removes you because He has handpicked you for something greater. The crowd cannot journey where the called must go. The next chapter of your life demands solitude, clarity, and obedience. When God instructed Abraham to move, He said, "Leave your homeland, your relatives, and your father's house, and go to the land I will show you." Notice the pattern. God required separation before revelation. Abraham didn't know the destination, yet he trusted the direction. That's what true readiness looks like. You step forward even when the outcome is unseen. You obey even when the reasoning isn't clear. You believe that if God spoke it, it's already secured in His design. This is where many people stumble. They hear the command but hesitate. They overanalyze what should be obeyed. They crave endless confirmations before taking one step. But faith doesn't demand a blueprint. It demands boldness. You can't reason your way into obedience. You must yield your understanding and trust His leading. The moment you declare, "God, I'll follow where you lead," that's when the shift begins. Movement isn't always visible often. The greatest motion happens within. God stirs your spirit before He changes your situation. He breaks the grip of fear, doubt, and insecurity that kept you stuck. He heals the wounds that tied you to your past. He strengthens the faith that will uphold you in your next season. Don't resist the inner work, because once God completes what's inside you, nothing outside can hinder what's coming. And understand this: when the shift arrives, it won't tiptoe in quietly. It will come suddenly, powerfully, unmistakably. It will feel as if everything is shifting all at once. That's because divine timing always feels instant to those who have waited long. You may have waited for years, feeling unseen, forgotten, questioning if God still remembers you. What once failed will begin to flow. What resisted you will finally release. That's the beauty of divine timing. But you must be spiritually prepared. If your heart is still tied to the old, you'll overlook the new when it comes. That's why God issues a final call before the shift. Prepare your heart. Fortify your faith. Let go of what I've already removed. Don't cling to what I've already cut away. The past cannot journey with you into promise. The wilderness cannot enter the land of plenty. Travel light if you want to move quickly. God's preparation often appears as pruning. He removes what seems alive but bears no fruit. He cuts away what drains your strength but doesn't advance your purpose. It's painful, yes, but it's purposeful. The pruning you endure today creates room for the fruit you'll produce tomorrow. God never cuts to harm. He cuts to heal. And when his work in you is complete, you'll thank him for every no that shielded you, every delay that refined you, and every silence that trained your spirit to listen. Some of you are still fighting battles that no longer belong to you. You're trying to hold territory that God already told you to release. The struggle feels endless because the season for that fight has expired. God is saying, stop trying to protect what I never asked you to keep. Stop clinging to what I'm calling you out of. When you obey my voice, peace will return. You cannot walk in peace while fighting to remain where God has already moved on from. There's a spiritual law at work. Wherever God's presence moves, favor follows. But if you remain behind in disobedience, you'll find yourself in a place that once overflowed with blessing, but now feels barren. The favor didn't disappear. It advanced, and God is calling you to advance with it. Don't stay behind out of fear. Don't miss divine opportunity because comfort feels safer. The unknown isn't your enemy. It's the birthplace of miracles. When God calls you to move, he provides what you need along the way. The provision may not appear until you take that first step, but it will appear. Just as manna fell in the desert and water burst from the rock, God will meet you in motion. The miracle won't find you in stillness. It manifests in movement. God blesses steps of faith, not the posture of hesitation. Now listen carefully. The command to get ready to move isn't just about location, it's about transformation of the mind. The greatest shifts begin in how you think. God cannot release new blessings into an old mindset. You can't step into overflow with a mentality of lack. You can't walk in faith while dwelling in fear. Before God alters your circumstances, he renews your perspective. You must start perceiving possibility where others see impossibility. You must speak life where others speak doubt. You must believe that if God brought you to it, he will sustain you through it. Never underestimate the power of readiness. Readiness attracts revelation. When your heart is aligned with his voice, he begins to unveil what's next. But when your heart is clouded by doubt, you'll miss what he's revealing. That's why stillness and obedience are critical in this season. Don't talk yourself out of what God is forming. Don't let the noise of others drown out his whisper of direction. Often the final instruction will demand humility. God will ask you to forgive those who wounded you. He will ask you to bow in moments when you want to prove a point. He will ask you to trust him with outcomes beyond your control. These aren't small tests. They are keys that unlock divine movement. Pride anchors you to the past, but humility opens doors to your future. The movement God is calling you into requires total surrender. You can't walk halfway in faith and halfway in fear. You can't obey partially and expect a full blessing. God's instructions are never suggestions. They are gateways. Every act of obedience unlocks another door. Every divine instruction you ignore closes the door that could have carried your next breakthrough. So before the shift begins, ask yourself, am I truly ready to obey completely? Because delayed obedience is still disobedience, and disobedience delays destiny. This coming shift won't just promote you, it will also reveal you. When God elevates you, your heart becomes visible. The motives once hidden will surface, and the attitudes you avoided will be tested. That's why God takes time to refine you before he releases you. The blessing itself isn't the ultimate goal. Becoming the kind of person who can sustain that blessing is. If God advanced you before equipping you, the very weight of what you prayed for would break you. So if you're still in the waiting, trust the process. Preparation isn't punishment. It's divine protection. You're standing at the edge of something greater than you've dared to imagine. You've prayed for this, hoped for this, endured for this, and now God whispers, the time is near. You can sense it in your spirit. The old chapter is closing. The lessons have taken root. The tears have watered the soil. The long night is fading, and the dawn of change is breaking open. But before you step into that light, God gives his final command. Get ready to move. And when that moment arrives, don't hesitate, don't question, don't look back at what you've outgrown. Move with boldness, move with belief, move knowing that God has already gone ahead to make the crooked path straight. The same God who walked with you through the valley will lead you up the mountain. The same God who sustained you in your lowest moments will empower you for your greatest victories. Every soul eventually faces the crossroads between comfort and calling, between safety and surrender. That's the moment that separates those who merely talk about faith from those who live by it. The call to get ready to move isn't just a signal of change, it's a summons to courage. God isn't asking you to move in fear, he's calling you to step out in faith. Fear stares at the storm and freezes, but faith looks at God and moves forward. When he gives the signal, don't wait for conditions to be perfect. They never will be. The moment will never feel convenient, but the calling will always be divine. God doesn't shift your life around your comfort. He moves it according to his purpose. That's why his timing can feel inconvenient. He'll tell you to step forward when the ground still looks unsteady. He'll urge you to build when others say it's too late. He'll whisper now when logic screams not yet. That is the essence of divine movement. It rarely fits human reasoning. The ways of God transcend understanding. His timing outsmarts your planning. And when he moves, you must move with him. Even if trust is all you have left, the spiritual shift God begins in your life always starts quietly deep within the soil of your spirit. You might feel a restlessness you can't explain, a sacred dissatisfaction with where you are. That's not frustration. It's transformation. It's destiny tugging you toward what's next. You are not being punished. You are being pulled into purpose. God is awakening something within you that refuses to settle for anything less than what he promised. That's why you no longer fit in the places that once felt comfortable. That's why the conversations that once thrilled you now leave you empty. You've outgrown the smallness of where you were, and God is summoning you into the greatness of what's ahead. But here's a truth many avoid. Before God elevates you, he will first isolate you. Before he blesses you, he will test you. Before he multiplies you, he will prune you. There will be a season where you walk alone, where you must stand firm as others step away, where you keep believing when no one else can see what you see. God's final instruction before a shift often removes the noise of the crowd so you can recognize his voice clearly. Isolation is not abandonment. It's divine alignment. God is drawing your focus back to the source. This period of preparation is sacred, not punishment. It's purification. He's cleansing your heart from distractions and dependencies that cannot journey forward with you. You can't bring resentment into a new realm of blessing. You can't carry offense into a divine opportunity. You can't drag disbelief into an atmosphere designed for miracles. When God says get ready, he's saying lay down what will weigh you down later. Forgive what they did, release what they said, let go of what failed. I'm doing something new. You may not feel qualified for this move. You might see only fragments and flaws, but God delights in using those who feel unworthy. He doesn't call the capable, He empowers the chosen. The coming shift isn't dependent on your ability, it rests on His authority. When God speaks, creation responds. When He commands, mountains bow. When He calls your name, nothing on earth can halt what begins to move. The only thing that can stop it is hesitation. Think about this. When God told the night to surrender to dawn, the sun didn't resist. When He told the ocean where to stop, it obeyed. When He told the stars to shine, they didn't question. They simply responded. All of creation moves at His word. So why do we, made in His image, hesitate to obey? Because obedience demands surrender. It requires trust in what we cannot yet see. But once you choose to trust, you step into a current of divine power that can't be explained, only experienced. The shift ahead won't be mild, it will be magnificent. God isn't preparing you for something ordinary. He's positioning you for transformation that reveals His greatness. He's aligning opportunities, shifting connections, and reshaping environments so His purpose in you can unfold completely. But remember, the shift isn't just about your destination. It's about your transformation. God isn't merely moving your position. He's molding your character. Every delay, every detour, every disappointment has been training you to steward this next level with wisdom and humility. When God gives a final command, He doesn't speak to your comfort. He speaks to your calling, and your calling will always stretch your current capacity. You may say, God, I don't know how to do this, but that's precisely the point. God doesn't require your experience. He desires your availability. He will teach you everything you need along the journey. When the Israelites followed the cloud by day and the fire by night, they didn't need a map. They simply needed to stay close to His presence. That's how God leads, step by step, moment by moment, word by word. His movement in your life will require spiritual sensitivity and discipline. You'll need to stay in tune with His timing, because there will be seasons when He says wait, and others when He says go. Your success will depend on discerning the difference. Move too early, and you'll struggle. Move too late, and you'll stagnate. But move at His command, and you'll experience success that defies logic. When He says move, don't consult your fears, consult your faith. Many never encounter the ship because they cling to what's temporary. They try to preserve seasons that God has already concluded. But when God declares something finished, it's not loss, it's mercy. He ends certain things to safeguard your future. That friendship that faded was divine protection. That door that closed was holy redirection. That missed opportunity was preservation from something that wasn't meant for you. God sees what's ahead and won't allow anything to block your destiny. In this season, you must listen more than you speak and discern more than you plan. God will reveal subtle signs that the shift is approaching. You'll sense a quiet peace in your spirit, even when your surroundings remain uncertain. You'll notice coincidences that are actually confirmations. You'll feel drawn to what aligns with your purpose and detached from what no longer fits. That's God whispering, prepare yourself. The time is near, and when that moment arrives, it will happen swiftly. You won't have time to get ready then. You must be ready now. That's why God speaks before the shift, to awaken your spirit and sharpen your focus. The blessing isn't for the passive, it's for the prepared. Be like the traveler who keeps his lamp full and burning, ready for the call. So when the light of opportunity appears, he doesn't miss his moment. Understand this truth. God never brings you out of something without the intention of leading you into something greater. Every exit carries a new entrance. Every ending holds the seed of a beginning. If you're losing something now, it's only because God is making space for what's next. If doors are closing, it's because a better one is about to open. The shift is not punishment, it's promotion wrapped in discomfort. So when God whispers, "Get ready to move," don't reply with hesitation. Respond with faith. Say, "God, I trust you. Lead me wherever you will." That simple declaration activates divine power. Heaven moves in response to readiness. The moment your heart aligns with obedience, sealed doors begin to unlock, hidden paths become visible, and the right people start appearing as divine connections. That's how God works. Quietly, intentionally, and perfectly. You may not see the entire picture right now, but you don't need to. Your responsibility isn't to understand every detail, it's to follow. When you move in obedience, God takes ownership of the outcome. You won't have to chase blessings. They'll pursue you. You won't have to plead for favor. It will locate you. You won't have to force doors. They'll swing open at the appointed time. Because when you walk with God, everything tied to your destiny moves with you. My friend, the moment has come to stop lingering at the edge of your calling. You cannot remain in the valley of hesitation when God's voice is roaring. Move. You've prayed for change, asked for signs, and God has been whispering, "Prepare yourself. The waiting season has fulfilled its purpose. The refining fire has strengthened your heart. The winds that once broke you have built your endurance." This is not the moment for fear. It's the time to act in faith. God never calls the hesitant to stand still when he's ready to shift the heavens. When his divine command comes, hesitation forfeits destiny. You must rise and declare, "God, I'm ready." When he instructs you to move, he's not asking for comfort. He's calling for trust. Every major shift begins with surrender. Every divine move begins with obedience. There's no miracle without movement. No breakthrough without boldness. Many ask for change but cling to what God is trying to remove. They crave the promise yet resist the process leading to it. But if you truly trust God's sovereignty, you must be willing to step away from the familiar, even when it feels safe. Yesterday's comfort can become tomorrow's captivity if God has already gone ahead. The same voice that led Abraham into the unknown is calling you now. The same hand that split the sea is reaching toward you. God is saying, "It's time. Move forward." You cannot grasp the future while clinging to the past. Every hesitation rooted in fear becomes a denial of destiny. When you refuse to move, you're telling God your comfort matters more than his command. But when you rise in faith, even without full understanding, you unlock the floodgates of favor. God's final instruction before your shift always tests your willingness to trust completely. It may seem illogical. It may disrupt every plan you made. Yet the greatest blessings are reserved for those who walk when others wait. God's timing is never late, but it demands readiness. You can't prepare after he calls. You must prepare before. While the silence still shapes your faith, align your heart with his purpose. Whatever binds your spirit, fear, regret, doubt, or guilt, release it into his hands. You were never designed for bondage when liberty is written over your destiny. The pain that humbled you wasn't meant to destroy you. It taught you to rely on him. The disappointments weren't punishments. They were preparation. The seasons that seemed wasted weren't lost. They were sanctified in waiting. Every tear watered the soil of your promise. Every closed door positioned you for the one only God can open. Now the ground beneath your feet is trembling, because your moment of divine transition has come. Do not seek validation from others to take a step when God has already given you His word. The call of God is deeply personal. It won't make sense to those who didn't hear what you heard in the stillness of prayer. It won't be understood by those still anchored in the comfort of the crowd. You must walk boldly, knowing that obedience to God outweighs the approval of people. When He commands you to move, it's not a gentle suggestion, it's a holy summons. You're not stepping away from something. You're stepping into a divine design that was written over your life before your first breath. Every step of faith declares that you trust God more than your fears. Voices will rise to question you. Some will say you're too early, others that you're not ready, but only God knows the appointed hour. He doesn't call the prepared, He prepares the called. If God has set this shift in motion, every provision, every opportunity, every connection will meet you as you move. The path won't appear until your feet start walking. Faith isn't knowing all the details. It's believing that God is already waiting where He's sending you. When you walk with Him, the impossible becomes reachable, and the unseen becomes visible. So stand firm and lift your gaze. You're not stepping into uncertainty. You're stepping into divine intention. You're not losing what you leave. You're receiving what was always yours. God is calling His people to rise from apathy, to shake off delay, and to enter the season of fulfillment. This isn't another chapter. It's a divine turning point. Old doors are closing because greater ones are opening. Familiar roads are fading because new ground is being revealed. When God moves, nothing stays unchanged. He uproots, rebuilds, and repositions. And those who walk in rhythm with Him witness miracles. Now is the moment to examine your heart. Are you ready to move? Are you willing to trust even when the path is unclear? Are you prepared to walk away from what no longer carries His presence? The hour is upon you, and His instruction is unmistakable. Don't look back. The past has fulfilled its purpose. Don't doubt His word never fails. The waiting wasn't wasted. It strengthened you for this command. You were being shaped in silence, refined through trials, prepared in hidden places. Every unseen battle forged you for this visible shift. Rise now with courage. Step forward in faith. Lift your heart and declare, I am ready. Let obedience roar louder than fear. Let faith move ahead of logic. God's hand is on you, and His voice is calling you higher. The cloud is moving. Don't be left behind. When He says move, move. When He says release, release. When He says rise, rise. On the other side of obedience lies everything you've prayed for. Peace, purpose, and fulfillment. The shift isn't here to break you, but to bless you. It's not here to take. It's here to position you closer to promise. And when you move with God, you realize that what looked like an ending was really a beginning. You look back and see that every delay had purpose. Every heartbreak held wisdom. Every silence carried instruction. You'll understand that God was never distant. He was guiding you one step at a time. So walk forward with unshakable faith. Let your life show the world what it means to fully trust God. Become the living proof of what happens when obedience meets divine timing. You have waited long enough. You have prayed long enough. The final word has been spoken. God is saying, get ready to move. Move with power, with confidence, with humility. Move not, because it's easy, but because I have spoken. Move, knowing my hand goes before you. My wisdom lights your way, and my strength sustains you. This is your defining hour. Don't let fear steal it. Don't let doubt delay it. The wind of heaven is shifting in your favor. The time is now. The door is open. The path is clear. Get ready to move, for God is leading you into the promise that has been waiting since the beginning of